What's up guys, it's your boy PV Rajan. Welcome back to my channel where we talk all things real estate, personal finance, and entrepreneurship. So in today's video, we're gonna be talking about how I got a 17 unit apartment building for free. So the year is 2019. Me and my partners have each built sizable real estate portfolios, the duplexes, the triplexes, a few single families, etc. But we were all looking to scale up and take it to that next level in real estate investing and take down a big apartment building deal. So from talking to a bunch of investors in my network, YouTube, reading up on online resources like Bigger Pockets, etc., I learned that while large multifamily buildings can look intimidating, the underlying fundamentals are very much the same as the triplexes, the duplexes, etc., but just on a much bigger scale. At this point, I already knew what I was doing when it came to the triplexes, the duplexes, and investing in real estate and what it takes to be a landlord. Now, when it comes to the apartment building, even though it looks intimidating, it's just doing the same thing on a much larger scale. So in 2019, we made it happen. We joined forces and we took down our first large apartment building deal. So step one, how we found the deal. One of my business partners, Jeff Weibel, who's also a real estate agent, had initially seen this property for sale on the market. A few months later, he noticed that the property hadn't sold and the listing had actually expired. So what I mean by the listing was expired is that the property was previously listed on the market, it didn't sell, and over time the listing expired and it went off the market. So we crunched some numbers on a purchase price that would meet our metrics, and in this case we cared primarily about three things. One, could we get the property for under fair market value? Two, could the property cash flow? And three, was there room for forced appreciation? All three of these criteria were met, so Jeff went ahead and contacted the previous listing agent to ask if he still had a relationship with the seller. Turned out that he did, so we put together an offer, submitted it, the agent presented it to the seller, and bam, the offer was accepted. The plan for this building was to use the BRRRR strategies. This building was definitely in beat up shape, it needed a lot of work, and it had a lot of potential. So the units could all be improved and they all could use a facelift, but also the net operating income of the building had so much room for improvement, and that's what made this an attractive deal for us. So for those of you who don't know, the BRRRR strategy is when you buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. It's one of the very popular strategies in real estate when it comes to rapidly scaling a portfolio, and we essentially use the BRRRR strategy on an apartment building. So remember this for later in the video. The next step was to get financing secured. So when it came to this apartment building, it's a little different than the traditional residential units that we've purchased. Because it was more than 4 units, we had to use commercial financing in this case. So the key difference with commercial financing is typically you have to put 25% down versus 20% down to get the mortgage free and clear of mortgage insurance. You can actually get CMHC financing on these apartment building deals and actually put less than 25% down. However, the shitty part is that it can usually take up to even 6 months to get the financing in place to close the deal. So, if you're in a situation where you found a good deal, the seller's giving you a good price, typically to make it an attractive offer, you have to close quickly. If you put a 6-month window for closing, or if you put a 6-month financing condition, that's not going to look attractive to the seller and it will likely kill the deal. So my pro tip for you is close with traditional financing, put the 25% down, and then refinance afterwards with CMHC once you've stabilized the building, or if you're already buying into equity, go ahead and do that right away. Whether I recommend CMHC financing or not, the pros and cons, that's a completely different video. Not going to get into those details, just something that you guys should be aware about. We went with an alternative lender in order to get this deal done. This meant a massive lender fee and pretty high interest rates in order to get this mortgage funded and close this deal. I remember when we were at the lawyer's office ready to sign the paperwork in order to close this deal. I remember the lawyer reading over the paperwork and saying, damn, I'm in the wrong profession because clearly mortgage brokers make a shit ton of money and that's what I should be doing instead. Because our broker fee and lender fee were massive on this deal. But you know what, guys? At the end of the day, if the deal makes sense and you're gonna make much more money on the other side, pay the fees It's a cost of doing business, and for us, you'll see when I go into the numbers, this deal worked out fantastic for us and more than justified the broker fee and the lender fee on this deal. Ideally, we'd all love to put as little money out of pocket as possible, but trust me, especially with these apartment buildings where the asset has a lot of room for improvement and it's not cash flowing much right now in its current state, and you're going to be the one stabilizing the asset to improve that net operating income and get it there, a lot of lenders are going to say no. A lot, your BMOs, your TDs, your traditional lenders are going to say no right off the bat. So you got to use alternative financing, pay the fees in order to get it done. But trust me, if the deal makes sense, you're going to make more money on the other side. Don't let the fees scare you. So when it comes to the financing and what the lender had required for us with an apartment building versus the residential side, things were a little bit different. The lender's requirements for this residential apartment building were as follows. They needed an appraisal for the building, of course. The appraisal tends to be more expensive than a typical residential appraisal because with a larger apartment building, there's a lot more work involved for the appraiser. Number 2 was the current rent revenue for the building as well as the expenses. They utilized this to see whether the building can debt service on its own or if an additional personal guarantee would be needed. So in our case, we purchased the property through a brand new corporation and ultimately personally guaranteed the mortgage in order to qualify. So therefore, we each had to show our own personal ability to debt service as well as our own net worth statements to get the deal done. When it comes to apartment buildings, net operating income is going to be the key factor when it comes to the building's appraised value. If you can take a building and significantly increase its net operating income, you have significantly increased the value of the asset itself. That's how you burr apartment buildings. You got to buy the thing, increase the amount of income that it's able to produce, and that's what's going to push up your appraised value. So at the end, the appraiser is going to consider that, as well as the comparables values, as well as the amount of money you spent on renovations, and they're going to use all of that information to come up with that final appraised value. So we closed on the building and we had to work fast. We have expensive financing in place. The quicker we can get tenants turned over and improve the net operating income of the building, the quicker we can refinance, get more favorable lending, have more cash flow, and recycle our capital back out of the project. So right away, we started the tenant turnover process. We had some tenants leave naturally on their own, and many tenants we had negotiated a buyout price to get them to terminate their lease and move out of the unit. Once we had the units vacant, we quickly renovated the units and gave them a huge facelift. This way we were able to charge top market rents and thus push that net operating income of the building up significantly. For some of the units that were actually in pretty good shape, we just simply furnished them and rented them at market value as well. So let me quickly get into the numbers here for you guys. So in November 2019, we purchased this building for $1.6 million. We spent about $350,000 on renovations. 1 year later, guess what the building appraised for? $2.7 million in 1 year. Real estate, baby. That's how it's done. So at the appraised value of $2.7 million, we were able to burr this entire property, recycle and get back all of the capital. I'm talking the down payment, the closing costs, the renovation funds, everything right back so we can do it again and again and again and again and again. All the money we had tied up in this property had been pulled out, which is what made this a full burr. And now that $0 of our cash was left in this building, that's why I call it a free apartment building. $0 of our own cash is left in this building and we own it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Honestly, I could talk on and on about the specific little pieces, finding the deal, getting the financing for it, what kind of renovations we did. If that's something you're interested in, let me know in the comments and I can make a separate video going in depth about each one. If you're already a multifamily investor or are looking to get into multifamily investing, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys and see what you're doing strategically. And if you're not already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I drop videos weekly, giving you great content about real estate, personal finance, and entrepreneurship. I'll see you guys in the next one.